last place kid, and I always come back.
Like, that's the only time where I knew you were bullshitting.
He's the 1, 2, 3.
You were bullshitting us. We all knew it, but
welcome to the final installment of our very special 2024 spooktacular extravaganza. We're 3.5 gentlemen in the podcast, where 3 of the 4 hosts provide a refined and intellectual analysis of movies from our private collections, while one of us tries desperately to keep up. We'll let you decide which host is which, but for now, my name is Sean, and with me, as always, flying through the air on our bicycles in front of the moon, are Jeremiah.
You have absolute power. Yes.
Eddie.
I'll be right here.
Oh, I'll be right here.
I'll be
and
right
Brandon.
here.
this is reality, Greg. This is reality.
Uranus. Get
Uranus.
it? Your anus.
He doesn't get it,
Such
Greg.
a dick too, bro. It reminds me of like those kids. Those kids in the 90s and 80s were just
Dude,
assholes.
I wanted to
The
hang out with this
best
kid.
ever. I would go back to that moment in time.
Yeah.
I was telling Brandon, I was like, dude, those are the kids I want to hang out with.
No, I was Elliot, Brandon. Jeremy that was the friends I had to deal with growing up. Jeremy's friends.
Look
They
at
were
Ellie.
cool.
Look,
Smoking cigarettes, eating pizza. I'm just there like, can someone like feed me, please?
We were taken care of, dude.
As with our regular season schedule, we have been continuing our structure for spooktacular episodes, where each host chooses their film based off the previous one, as long as the movie shares an actor, actress, composer, director, or writer.
As with every review we give, our goal is to answer one simple question. How many drinks does it take to get through the film that we just watched? Now, at the end of the podcast, we'll rate the movie based on a scale of 0 to 5. 0 being a perfect film that you could watch stone cold sober, and 5 being sort of the film that makes you feel like you just watched a flower withered and died. No more emotional
So
shit,
sad.
dude. For a Halloween night, this is too emotional.
Listen, last week, thanks to Jeremiah, we
Cried.
revisited the brilliance of Stephen King's The Shining with Dr. Sleep. And since Sean has the next pick in our rotation, Senor Host, tell us what movie we have visiting Earth tonight, if people haven't guessed yet.
so tonight, if you haven't guessed yet, we have the most wonderful and excellent E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial. And this is a connection of Henry Thomas, who played in the wonderful movie we had last week, The Shining sequel, Dr. Sleep. And he played an older Jack Torrance, not quite as old as good old Jack Nicholson, but, was very, very good. Looked very good.
With the bartender.
So E.T. is a staple of my childhood, my youth. It is, in my opinion, one of the greatest movies ever made. Me and Brandon have been talking about this, trying to get this on the podcast, because there was one season a couple of years ago where I picked all zeros. Every movie I picked was like the best movie ever. They're like, you got to cut out those, you have to have some diversity.
Yeah, you had 5 straight zeros you posted up. It was like,
And I understand that not everyone loves this movie. I understand this movie probably has flaws in it, but for me, this movie represents everything that was great about my childhood, about, leaving your bikes at your friend's house and going and visiting. The streetlights come on, then you got to rush home. We were outdoor kids. We were rough and tumble. We didn't have video games. We didn't have TV. We had, Power Rangers at 3, and then you were out of the house, and you were out of the house for the rest of the time. So, this to me is it's one of Spielberg's best. It's one of John Williams' best. It is, if I was to draft a pinnacle of Steven Spielberg, John Williams, and the time, this would be the peak of everyone's career.
Yep.
In one fell swoop. It's just, to me, that's what it is.
I would agree.
And listeners, that's the end of our
Well said.
episode. Now it's the time of the podcast for the
yeah. So
But listen, we will get into it, Eddie.
This is a safe pick, Sean. I mean,
It is a safe pick. I mean,
yeah, we're doing Halloween here, and
this movie, it's centered on Halloween.
set
It is
at
takes
Halloween.
place at Halloween. They dress up in costumes.
We're dealing with a little monster.
listeners, every time we do our Halloween picks, Sean goes the PG-13, the PG route. He never picks the horror movie.
he
or
goes
something like that.
G. He doesn't go P.
He goes for a Halloween movie that's actually a summer movie, but it's okay.
Well,
I'm okay with it because it actually has Halloween in the movie, so I'm going to agree with Sean here. This is a Halloween movie.
Thank you.
all right. So listen, we can talk about his
I
pinnacle.
mean, it's about Alien.
It is. It's true. And we can talk about his pinnacle. I don't know. I think that I might argue, Sean, that Raiders is technically the pinnacle. We can get into that debate. But let's go ahead and talk about what movie we're talking about. And this is 1982's Steven Spielberg helmed masterpiece, E.T. the Extra-Terrestrial, which follows Elliot as he befriends an alien that was accidentally stranded on Earth. With the help of his brother, sister, and friends, Elliot sets out to help E.T. return to his ship and his home planet. Starring Henry Thomas, a young Drew Barrymore, Peter Coyote, and Dee Wallace, E.T. has earned an IMDb rating of 7.9 out of 10, Eddie, and has a Rotten Tomatoes score, Eddie, of 99 gosh darn percent with the critics and an audience score of 72%, which I got to be honest, I was writing those numbers down the other day, shocked out of my freaking mind that they're not all in the 90s.
With the 7.9, right?
I was actually surprised.
I was shocked when I saw that too. And I was like, okay, well, what are they seeing? And I was like, I watched it through a different lens, but keep going.
Yeah, and I think I did too this time. I don't mean to jump on into the analysis so quickly, but I do think that I watched this movie from a different perspective this time than ever before. I was not watching it just to enjoy it. I was watching it to be critical of it. So I do have some thoughts. So as with every movie that we review, we try to pair our selection with a cocktail that we hope will enhance the viewing experience. Ed, please take us through the out of this world cocktail that we will be enjoying this evening.
As we all know, E.T. loves Reese's Pieces, and I think we all do because of this movie. Yes. And to honor the little alien and his candy craving, we'll be drinking the Reese's Pieces Martini. First off, you're going to want to prepare the glass, take the martini glass, and spread some smooth peanut butter, or I don't know, what's it, soft peanut butter along the rim. Add some Reese's Pieces, crush it around to the peanut butter on the top of the glass. For the cocktail itself, you'll need to want to combine 1 ounce of original creamer, 1 ounce of Snickers creamer, 2 ounces of Reese's candy infused vodka to a shaker with ice. So that's Reese's candy infused with vodka, shaker of ice to infuse. Add some Reese's peanut butter cups to a jar of vodka and let it sit for 3 days or just 5 minutes. Shake the contraption up and then strain it into your prepared martini glass. Finally, sip and enjoy one of those classic movies from your childhood.
This drink takes almost as long as Eddie took to get through that description.
This is good.
I will say this. What we're doing is we're infusing Reese's peanut butter into the vodka through a 3-day process.
It is.
And I will say it is fucking delicious. So
yeah, the longer you wait, cool. If you don't have as much time as everyone else, just do it.
Or if you want to
right
sound
then
like
and there,
Eddie,
and just shake it really hard.
Just drink the vodka straight.
Yeah.
Just throw a Reese's Buttercup in there and just drink it, and then you'll taste it.
Let's go.
You're good.
So let's jump in. Let's jump into the review and let's talk about a couple of things, because I think that as far as opening sequences to a movie is concerned, this is one of my absolute favorites. I love the introduction of the character of Keys. I love the idea that you have all of these creatures coming to Earth, not really exposing themselves to the population, and what they're doing is they're collecting plants and vegetation, bringing it back on their little ship, and taking it back into the atmosphere. As opposed to the other alien movies where it's like, oh my god, there's an alien saucer over New York. This is more of a subtle, small story rather than a huge, big plotted story.
Well, you get the beautiful introduction.
Brandon.
You get the beautiful introduction to John Williams' score, which is so calm and so peaceful at the beginning, right? And then once you get the cars pulling up, you got the beautiful. I mean, okay, so Sean, you were saying that you kind of looked at this a new way, right? When you were watching this time, you were looking at it kind of with a new lens and perspective. And for me, I was focusing so little on story because I know the story in and out. This time when I watched, I looked for cinematographic, right? I looked for just the shots, the lighting, everything. And what I love is that you have those trucks pull up so hard, right? You got the dust kind of mingling in there, and the music changes. And then you got kind of this shuffling, screaming movement with the aliens, which explains why little E.T. is left behind. And to me, this is the perfect marriage of visuals, of sound, of emotion. I mean, it sets the tone right from the get-go. And so you have this movement from calm peace to chaotic to then coming back down. And what I saw with this movie, and what I kind of want to talk about, is the pacing. I think that the pacing of this movie might rival any other movie that's ever been made, because it is constantly going slow to fast, slow to fast. It's constantly moving, and it's never stagnating and getting us bored at any point.
And what it does is it makes you scene by scene interested in seeing the next thing.
Yes.
So if you look at to me, it's like a Dan Brown novel. And that's what I was thinking the whole time, is that the Dan Brown has long chapters, short chapters, but everything's a cliffhanger. Everything kind of gets you excited about the next chapter.
Yes.
And this isn't an epic. This isn't this massively large story. It's a very small story that you really start to care about the characters. It's not about the overall story. It's actually about Elliot and his family healing from the loss of their father, who essentially left them. That's what I get. That's what I got from it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I get that too. The beginning scenes, I felt like there was really good shots, like really good angles, right? Like it was just like, oh wow, like you really feel like you were in the weeds in the woods with everyone there, like. And this was, I don't know, maybe I might be wrong, but I feel like at this time, 1982, you don't get many alien movies they come across as good guys, right? So, like, this is like the first one is like, oh, like, this is like the first idea of like, okay, maybe the aliens aren't as, they don't have to be like from the movie Alien, like ripping out of your heart, or, like, this is actually like a good little flip. And, the bad guys are not, I don't want to say the humans, but they're bad guys, but they're just, they're the government, right? And they're like, hey, something landed and we need to go investigate it. But so it was really cool how I saw it from this angle. And I took it as the little extraterrestrial that got left behind, E.T. I felt like for the first time ever, I felt like he was a child.
Mm-hmm. I think the better way to look at it is instead of aging him is saying he's innocent.
Yeah.
Just like Elliot is innocent because Elliot doesn't quite understand what's going on with his dad. He doesn't quite understand what's going on with his family. They've gone through this magnificent change. He's kind of the second fiddle to his brother who has all these friends. And, you get the idea that he doesn't have friends.
The way I look at it is because E.T., the way he looked at the city, he looked at it like he was brought to the trip for the first time.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And this was maybe like so he was looking at the lights. That's how I took it as. And all the other ones were just gathering data. So that's the first time I saw it through like, oh, he's like new to this trip, I felt like.
To piggyback to what all you guys are talking about for this movie, just imagine being a viewer in 1982, and imagine this too. 3 weeks before this movie came out, you had another alien movie that came out at the same time, and that was The Thing. So that movie is all fucking crazy and just deranged and just violent and just in your face. And here is something soft, something very calm. Mm-hmm. And what I really like about the intro is that you don't see E.T. at all. No, it's kind of, he does the whole hidden trick.
And you get the heart.
Yeah, you get the heartbeat. So you don't know what you're looking at. So your curiosity, your imagination is just going everywhere to like, what's running around through the woods? What's going on here? You're hearing the sound. And Spielberg does it perfectly, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did it with Jaws. He knows how to keep the imagination.
He keeps our interest. Is what he does.
And I'm not going to say that it's all Spielberg or all Lucas or all John Williams or all Henry Thomas who is captivating. I think that this is lightning in a bottle. You don't get this very often where all cylinders of a movie are firing simultaneously. The writing, the visuals, the music, the acting, everything is firing at the same rate and everyone knows what they're doing. And so I listened to, there was a great interview with Henry Thomas, and he said every time he went onto set, it was exciting, it was new, but it was also very somber. Like they were creating something that they all knew was very precious. And every scene that Steven Spielberg directed him in, he wanted to impress upon Elliot the importance of the relationship between E.T. and Elliot, that they were connected, that they were becoming each other, and that's a hard fucking concept for a kid to grasp. Oh, God dang it. Oh.
Have you seen the audition for Henry Thomas? Have you seen that online on YouTube, his audition? I mean, he's literally crying his eyes out. And supposedly all the producers and Spielberg were just in tears. And when he finished that scene, I mean, you hear Spielberg out of the camera just saying, "Kid, you got the job."
Yeah.
Boom. That was it, dude. I mean, he nailed it.
Is there more of an iconic scene than Elliot standing in the light of the barn in the backyard or whatever that hut is, where he meets
a little shed,
signs,
his little shed?
I mean, but that scene, that scene is so iconic. And you're talking about from a cinematographically, Brandon. I mean, that scene to me is up there with Casablanca, is up there with Lawrence of Arabia. I mean, you could put Spielberg now in this realm of creating a frame that if anyone saw this frame, boom, It's E.T. Like that's the whole E.T.
Well, what I love about this movie, and Sean, you hit on it early, and then we all kind of made fun of it. But this is, if you look at it just stripped to the core, this is a drama, 100%. This is a family drama. It's about a family who is broken, who is coming together, and the one commonality that is bringing them together is the discovery of this creature who, in a lot of ways, kind of becomes the substitute father figure. Not father, but father figure, right? Where they all can kind of bond together. But here's the thing, and this is what I think is so beautiful, is that you're talking about all the pieces coming together, and cinematographically, and I'm talking about cinematography, I'm talking about literally the lighting and the use of coloration and darkness and brightness, is that we are constantly in contrast, right? Now, one of my favorite scenes, and we're jumping ahead a little bit, but one of my favorite scenes cinematographically is where the faceless scientists are going through the town on the street, and they're listening in on all of the different houses, right? And you've got this different, like, each family is talking about some kind of brokenness in the family, right? They're all talking about, we can't afford it. What are we going to do with blah, blah, blah? And we get finally to Elliot's house, and it's him and it's Michael, and they're in the garage, and they're going through, they're trying to find the stuff for the phone. And you have this beautiful shadows just everywhere, but it's all illuminated by that one light. And it's all about, and this is what I love about this movie, is that this movie is about bringing light to a dark place. And that's what E.T. does. He brings the light to the family. It's all about illuminating the darkness in our world so that we can find some way to push forward. And to me, this is why this movie is so beautiful, is because it is an alien movie. It is a science fiction movie, but at its core, it is a hardcore family drama that is just asking us to go on this trip and to find out where this family ends up.
And to your thing, Brandon, they just don't make movies like this. I mean, anymore. Movie about love and friendship. I mean, this is what the movie is about, love and friendship. It feels like it's almost like an end of an era of just everything. Mm-hmm. The story is like, why it's like a 7.9 and audience has a low rating for Rotten Tomatoes. I think people forget, I guess, or just have that situation where when you grow up, your heart kind of dies, man. It's the saddest thing, dude.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking of like the power of this movie, You are able to believe in all the possibilities, right? This movie has been around over 40 years, and it's so heavy influence of our pop culture. The reason why we have Stranger Things is because of this fucking movie here. It's literally the blueprint, man.
Right.
Super 8.
And then, I mean, for me, I know that you guys have touched on it. It's about a family drama. It's about recovery. It's about trying to put pieces of a broken family back together and find your new path forward. But it's also about hope. Oh, yeah. I think that at its core, I think Elliot is a lonely child. Like a lot of us were in the 80s, and it didn't matter that we had siblings, and he's a middle child. He's stuffed between a much older brother who has friends of his own. They play Dungeons and Dragons. He's always excluded. And this is like, I got emotional in the end of this movie because there's a scene early on where he's really trying to get into the game. And the guy says, his brother says, he's a dungeon master. Talk to him. And he says, go get the pizza and you're in. Be prepared. Like, you got to take this seriously. Go get the pizza and we'll let you play.
Yeah, this is so like 80s. It hit a good spot.
But then at the end of the movie, when they're escaping in the van and they finally get to their bikes, Elliot yells to his brother's friends, follow me. And they all do.
He becomes the commander.
Those are the friends that you want. Seriously, we're going to be chased by the government. Follow me. And those guys didn't even blink a second. We're like, all right, let's fucking go. I mean,
the dedication of falling in and being like, let's go. I mean, that's like.
They were troops, bro. Like, they're like, we got you. We got your back.
Yeah.
See, listeners, that's what the 80s and 90s were all about, dude. Seriously, dude. That you had your homies fucking back.
And there's one scene, everyone talks about the moon scene when Elliot goes over the moon in his bike. I thought the much more impressive scene was when he picks them all up at the end of the movie and they go into the sunset. I thought that was just like.
Dude, my favorite part of the movie, we're going to be jumping around. Yeah, sorry, listeners. Apologize. We apologize. But my favorite part is when they're all on their bikes and they're like running away from the cops and then the cars. And it's just like this exciting adventure. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, Spielberg was such ahead of the game, man. Like, dude, who was doing this back in the day where you're just having like, this, you could see yourself and your friends running away or having this adventure. And the possibilities of what happens at the end when they all get carried out, dude, it is It's legendary, man. That's the best way I can describe
Well,
it.
I remember riding my bikes through new developments and going down the, you went down, you remember it. We would go
Yes.
down the lots.
There was you can go in backyards. It was it's your own little playground.
Yeah.
And like it was so cool. I remember that. Yeah.
Dude, it's so good, dude.
So going kind of back into the story, and he meets E.T. He lures him in with Reese's. I think one of the funniest ancillary stories is the fact that M&M company Mars thought it was too scary of a movie to have their candy associated with it, and so M&M's was their first choice. And yeah, what marketing person got fired over that one?
Yeah, seriously, dude.
Reese's Pieces, bro, still holds value because of this movie. Like I honestly we're recording this movie. I've bought Reese's Pieces probably like 19 times since I knew this was on the list. I was like, oh my god,
dude,
why
Reese's
haven't I?
Pieces is the business, dude.
No,
It
Reese's
will
Pieces
stay
is
forever, dude. It's my favorite candy for the movies.
So we've got this, the character of E.T. coming into the home, and you've got, in my opinion, a string of scenes that are very beautiful. The first of which is when Elliot is showing him around his room. And I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, but every person that came over, you were proud of your shit. You were proud of your
This is a
stuff.
car.
And you were like, come on, let's go.
This is my Super Nintendo.
I'm going to show you
can't play
everything
it.
that I've collected in my entire little short life, like my Pez dispensers and
This is my rookie King Griffey Jr. card. But you can't look at it.
I swear that my room looked exactly like Elliot's. It was, everything about it was just stuff.
Star Wars toys, dude.
I was not a toy person, but I was.
Boba Fett.
I had.
Don't fuck with him.
I've always been a collector.
I don't want to keep patting this movie on the back, but I'm gonna, and I think we are going to. But what I think that this movie does better than any movie I've ever seen, and I do mean ever, and we have all seen a ton of movies, and I think that this movie does it better than any other movie, is that it gets the childhood experience better than any other film. And you're talking, Sean, about how kids want to do that. Right. We FaceTime, my parents and Amanda's parents all the time. And every single time we get a FaceTime, my kids have to run over and get whatever new toy they got, whether it's a Happy Meal toy or if it's something they got from Target or whatever, and they have to show it off. But you have this concept, right? This focus on the childhood experience of innocence, and also innocence being tested. But I think it's all about, you talked about hope. Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. It's about hope. The movie's about hope, but it's about hope through kindness, through goodness, through helping other people out. And we talk about that introduction to E.T. in the room, but then we move forward. I know we're going to get there, but we move forward into the scene where we have, the kind of the comical, right? Everything's kind of starting to happen. Everything's kind of funny, but my God, it gets the idea of what being a kid is better than any movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, this definitely opened up some doors I felt like was closed. I was like, oh my god, I remember these scenes. You start calling them off, like, oh wait, is this the scene for that? Oh yeah, it is. And then you get the young Drew Barrymore, and it was just like, oh my god, like she was so adorable
and precious,
and she's very precious and nailed her scenes. The Scream, when the first time she saw E.T., this is like, oh my god, everything about her was just like my kids would be that way, or at least my daughter. I saw a lot of my daughter. I don't know about you, Brandon.
Oh yeah.
So it was just like, that's the reaction was on point. I was just like, that was so real. And it was like, she nailed it.
What's crazy about that scene, dude, is what's crazy about Drew Barrymore is that she got added to the movie the very last minute, because at the same time, pre-production, Spielberg was doing another movie, The Poltergeist. He was producing that. And Barrymore was actually supposed to be the girl that goes into the television.
Good choice.
They went with the other girl, but he's like, dude, this girl is a superstar, and brought her into this movie.
Thank God.
So it just happens, man. Sometimes, when you guys are saying everything falls perfectly in this movie, like lightning strikes once, maybe twice. This is the product right here, dude.
And I will add to this, Drew Barrymore, Henry Thomas, and even the older boy, I can't remember his name. I don't think they have performances like this without someone like Steven Spielberg, who has a crystal clear idea of exactly what he wants. He saw this movie. I don't know how to explain this, but sometimes when you are passionate about something, you see every ounce of it, and it comes through no matter what it is, a picture, a video, or a story you're writing, you see it. And I felt like this movie was one, Schindler's List was one, I think even Jurassic Park was one, where he saw exactly what he wanted on screen because he was able to connect with Drew Barrymore, connect with Henry Thomas, connect with the older brother, and really draw out precisely what he wanted without making them just crazy. Because I don't mean to prolong this, but if you look at the pantheon of directors who have worked with children, 5 of them are good. The rest are trash. The rest, John Hughes was great. Anyway, I think you don't get this movie without Steven Spielberg's express vision.
Do we know, was this movie shot in sequence? Because I would bet money that this was shot.
It was shot sequence. I literally read that, seriously.
I'm glad, yeah.
Research. It was literally shot.
It makes so much sense that they're bonding over the filming process, and we see that bonding over the storyline. So, sorry, I didn't want to step on toes, but Sean, you just had me thinking that it's such a beautiful directing choice.
My 2 questions I have is, what do you think of Peter Coyote as the Keys? Beginning of the movie, you think he's the villain, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's the bad person. In the end, he's just a grown-up kid finally trying to find his dream. I love his performance in this movie.
He's a grown-up kid with like an adult job. He's like, I'm just trying to.
It's so good. In my mind, I'm like thinking to myself, like, you're going to end up with the mom, and you guys are going to be a happy family, and all that shit, dude.
And this is one of the underlying aspects of the movie that I think is captured so great, and it doesn't slap you in the face. Is that Dee Wallace, who plays the mom, is a train wreck. She is struggling so much with the loss,
Is it the loss or just the bad absence?
I get the idea he left.
He left. He's
ran
over
off
in Mexico with Candy or Cindy or whoever that person is.
Right. Yeah. That's okay. I remember there was a scene in there where she talked about it, but it's his secretary. I think he left with his secretary, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
She's broken. She's a broken mom trying to hold it together for her kids. And there's a couple of scenes where she cracks. And getting back to your Peter Coyote, when the villain, the Keys, is Peter Coyote, and you actually get to hear his voice, his soft, wonderful voice, and the way that he delivers his lines, and then it's almost like he calms her down, and you do get the sense that they're making a connection. Like he's a child looking for aliens, as an adult, and she's broken, and they're both a little broken, and they're both looking for something, and they might have just found something. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe I'm just making this shit up because I love this movie so much, and it comes out, but it's
you're not making it
hard.
up because that's what we see on screen. We see that screen. We see that when like Elliot's going crazy in by the doctors and whatnot. Who calms him down?
Yeah,
it's the Keys. It's
right.
Peter Coyote to calming them down, talking them down.
Yeah, Keys was straight up like, "Hey, you've done amazing. Like you're the best person for this job. Like I'm so happy that you got to be the first person to be with E.T. I don't know, I'm calling him E.T. But like you got the case of like he was more than just like he wasn't just another government official. Like he actually was trying to do something more than his job.
Well, and you
from the very beginning,
you realize he was never trying to catch E.T. He was trying to observe E.T. He was trying to understand what E.T. was. Yeah. And that's, you get one of the things that scared the shit out of me when I was a kid was all the white tubes and all the and we're jumping ahead, but I mean, this is kind of natural, I think, in the progression of the podcast. Hold on, I'm going to back up because I really want to talk about the scene where the kid is drunk in class. Yes. So first of all, I don't remember that from the original. Oh. So was that an added scene that I've seen over
that was
the years,
classic.
Or what?
Okay. That was OG.
No,
because
that was my first introduction of being drunk or being an alcohol.
Same thing. Yeah, same thing. No idea that was even in the movie until I watched it.
So I'm watching this movie, and I have seen The Quiet Man 25 times, and that is the best scene in The Quiet Man between Catherine O'Hara and John Wayne.
Catherine O'Hara?
And John, it's windy, and the door opens, and he grabs her, and he twirls her to her, and they kiss, and they're angry with each other, and it's one of the best scenes in cinema. Quiet Man's a great movie. Everyone should watch that movie. However, the way that it's recreated here, with him being drunk in class, freeing the frogs, and then you've got this beautiful scene where E.T. is watching this movie and it's being recreated in the classroom, and then he steps on the little kid to get high enough to kiss the girl. I think that is one of the most iconic 34 seconds in all of cinema, where it's like, maybe you have to be of that era of movies and appreciate that era of movies to really love it. But to me, that's just connected 40 years of film, 40 years of cinema in an instant. Yeah. And it was so beautiful. Yeah. It was just so beautiful.
So I don't want to step on your toes with the white tubes, because we can definitely talk about that. We can also absolutely talk about what I think will go down in my top 10 shots for any movie in the history of film, and that is when you have the work crew walking over that hill into the blazing sunset. We need to talk about that. But what I do want to talk about is, Jeremiah, in response to you and asking about Peter Coyote, one of the things that I love so much about this movie, and I know that, drinking game, every time we talk about something we love about this movie, take a shot, because you're going to be fucked over in 15 minutes. But one of the things I love about this movie is that there is no actual villain. There's no bad guy. Even the other scientists, right?
Yeah, there's
even the other scientists besides Keyes, they're trying to find something. They're trying to explore this. They probably were going to go and dissect little E.T. after he died, but they weren't trying to kill him. They were trying to prolong his life. And here's the big thing. Here's the big kicker, is at the end, they all let him leave. Like, they all watch him leave, and they're all in dumbstruck, gobsmacked awe of watching this spaceship leave, with them knowing for a fact that they actually experienced this. And I think that is something so rare in film, is that we don't need to have this good versus evil. You can have good versus another version of good, and it works. And I just fucking love the simplicity, Sean. You keep talking about the simplicity, but the goodness behind every single character's actions. There's just good radiating from it. And my gosh, if there's one thing that our world and our culture and our society needs now, it's just a little bit more goodness. And I think this movie is some of that goodness.
To follow what you're saying, dude, I think there is one villain or something like that, and that is sickness and death. Because when E.T. is dying, or we think he's dying, and you actually have real doctors trying, and I guess supposedly they were actually real doctors trying to save his life, and you just hear nothing else but silence, and you just watch all these people looking over E.T. Yeah. I can only imagine what it felt like in the theaters, because when I was watching it, I was just like, my heart was in my throat. And then you have Drew Barrymore is like, is he gone, mama? Is he dead, mama? That right there, just, it hits you so hard because you get so wrapped up on this story, this friendship, this innocence, this whole thing that you're a part of, and it almost gets taken away from you. Man, that scene was so powerful, man. That it took me I had to pause it after, and I had to catch my shit together to finish the rest of the movie, because especially when you see the flowers like dying, and the brother's like, no, dude.
So this falls back with the whole white tubes, and so we're watching this movie through an adult set of eyes, right? So it makes me think, like, this whole time I've been watching this movie through the eyes of my children, right? So I was watching this movie the whole time, and then they happened to come in at the scene of all the government taking over, and they're walking up, and you have that sunset, and you just see them. You have 9 guys or 10 guys walking, on the street, and instantly you have cop cars and you have government cars, and my kids are locked in right from there. They're sitting down, locked in. I could do anything I could have said to them. They were not paying attention to me anymore, and I thought that was pretty cool to see that. For their eyes, they were like, I didn't have to say anything. They were just watching it. My youngest 3-year-old, she's in it. She's just like, what's about to happen? And they were scared, like, for E.T. and this, like, the government taking over. But then I saw it through the other eyes of, they're helping in the weird way of, and I was like, I never saw that angle at this age now. But I thought at the same time, it was such a beautiful scene. All those scenes were like different. They hit different now at my age. I had to stop it, replay it, and my kids were asking, "Why are you replaying this scene?" Is like, because it gave me goosebumps. I want to replay the scene again because it hit me hard.
And there were
it was crazy.
And there were a couple scenes in this movie that really rattled me in a way that I didn't quite did not expect. The first one is seeing E.T. in the water with the raccoon.
Oh,
when the brother went to go find him, and he was all pale and ashy and like.
Oh
and
yeah, that's
I'm
a
like,
tough scene,
why
dude.
why am I watching this? Why do I care so much? And then they bring him back, and here's my big question. Okay, or big. This is a big issue I have with the movie that I don't quite understand.
I'll fix it.
I always thought that E.T. had to disassociate himself from Elliot in order to go back to his planet, because he was essentially latched on to Elliot in order to survive. I like
How
to
did that
think
happen?
the environment. So it's almost like he needed Elliot's connection in order to live. And then he made the decision when he connected with his home planet after he built the device, and it was working with the Mr. Spell and the, all that stuff, that he started his disassociation process, which essentially could have killed him. And it was the love of Elliot that brought him back.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought. Is that what happened? Like, what do you guys think happened?
Jerry, you go, and then I'll take it.
I think that he had to experience life and death in order to understand the human side of things, to really go through it. But what he also needed to experience was, the human connection and love at the same time. That helped the cycle of our existence in so many ways. That's what I got out of that, of what his purpose was.
Ed?
I'll piggyback, and Brandon can go last if you want. So I was kind of going with Jeremy is what keeps him alive is love. What keeps him alive is love. And the moment that, so that's why he's so safe and secure, is because he's with Elliot and the whole family, or at least Elliot, and then he was able to, but it also gives him energy to pass out. But there's only so much that a little kid can give. So that's why he was pulling too much energy from the kid. So I get what you're saying,
They
Sean.
synced.
I kind of
It's
see
almost
it.
like they synced.
Yeah, they synced, and I feel like that's where the ET was smart enough to like, hey, I'm killing this kid, and I need to unsync. I don't want to kill him.
Because if you go back, there's a couple of scenes where
Yep.
Elliot is definitely not doing well. Like where his brother goes, Elliot, what's wrong with you? And he says, nothing, I'm fine.
And, it's Halloween night, and he was sick already Halloween night,
Right.
and you start seeing like, okay, he's like diminishing with his health randomly. It seems now, I understand the reasoning is that he's pulling the health of somebody else. But I feel like in order for him to survive, it's also he has to pull a little bit of love. It seems like there's a lot of love in this scenario. Like, yeah.
Brandon?
So I got a little bit different reading, and I love hearing you guys talk about this because I never really thought about it as the life cycle, Jer. Obviously, I did see the connection between E.T. and Elliot as synchronicity and not necessarily taking from. That was just my reading. For me, I think that the answer to his decline and then his resuscitation comes in his extrasensory, ESP essentially, right? The fact that he can connect to Elliot on a mental level, the fact that he can create movement, he can make the balls fly, that when he is creating the telephone, right? And he goes out to the woods to do the telephone. I don't think that the telephone alone is what sends the signal. I think that what it is it's him giving all of himself, his being, all of his ESP powers towards reaching out into space through time. And that basically what we get is a completely drained body, right? He has given himself completely to this phone call essentially. And that his body needs time to re-up. And I do think that it is kind of fairy tale-ish in the sense that, it's Elliot's love, but I don't, and this is me being maybe a little bit, I don't know, critical or negative. I don't know if he would have, cynical. There we go. I don't know if he would have died, quote unquote, died. Like when he flatlines, I don't think that he actually dies. I do think that we have a whole lot of symbolism. There's a whole lot of Christian symbolism in this film. My gosh, when he comes out of the back of the van and he's dressed in a white robe and his heart's glowing and he's like, here, I'm Jesus. Right. So we have that. But what to me, I see this as something
is there a connection though? Do you see a connection at least?
Between Elliot and E.T.? Absolutely. 100%. But I do think that it's him draining his body of all of its reserves in order to get the thing that he wants. And if we look at it, what he wants is exactly what he has through Elliot, but he has it with his own people. And that is love, acceptance, friendship, compassion with his community. And so, I mean, you're right, Ed. It's about love, but it's about love on so many different levels than just, this boy loving this creature that he finds and taking it under his wing.
So when E.T. dies, let's just call it that. Let's call it the death. I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken every time I watch it. But I don't think that there's a resurrection better on screen than his evolution, because I want to know behind the scenes, but I don't want to know at the same time. But Henry Thomas's reaction to seeing him alive, it's almost like he was like, they were like, all right, he's dead, be dead. And then all of a sudden he turned on, they flipped on the mechanics that were E.T. and he is so excited. Yeah. He is just like, I've never, how kids, when they get excited, they have that special laugh or that special sound.
A special energy, man.
That got that energy on camera, and it was just like he was so excited to see his friend back.
And the flowers,
and he immediately had to hide the fact because, he immediately changed his whole plan, and it was such a conniving little child plan. All right, we're gonna get him. We're gonna get our bikes. We're gonna meet here, and we're gonna just go. It's like, you've got half the military following you, kid. You're not going to make it.
Makes me think, this government, who's watching these guys? Jeez, guys.
But the thing is that you feel all that magic, you feel all that love, you feel all that, hope is because of John Williams' score.
Oh, yeah.
When you see the flowers blooming up, you hear his theme going up in the same time.
I would almost suggest from the moment E.T. is resurrected, through the getting on the bikes, through the getting through the, flying through the air to the spaceship, you have in what I would call, however long that is, probably 15 minutes, but a 15-minute build of a theme that never stops. And what I love so much about this movie, and I love so much about John Williams, is he took the threatening bum bum ba-da-dum bum ba-da-dum bum of the original, if you watch the opening scene where the villains come, that's what theme is playing. But then when they get on the bikes, it starts with bum bum ba-da-bum bum, and then it changes to this, my favorite theme he's ever written in the history of the world, where it goes with the high flutes and the da-da-da-da-da-da, and it creates this it's magic. And there's no really better score than this. I don't understand. Oh.
So that was my question to ask you guys. Is this the score for him? Is this one of the most epic scores? Is this his best?
For sure. But without a doubt.
Did he do Jaws? Did he do Jaws?
Yes. No, I'm gonna go.
I'm gonna go. I don't know what to tell you.
And I would let me just refine it, Jeremiah.
Did you do Harry Potter?
Let me answer your question and refine it. His best music is when they're on their bikes, and he does the da na 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 na, and then it goes up, and then it goes up, and then da na 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 na, and it goes into the E.T. theme, and it swells, and then the last scene is when they leave. It's like this. Is the entire orchestra exploding in your brain? And I'm gonna tell you why I believe this, because I have been to a John Williams concert, and I don't know if anyone else in this podcast. Okay,
yes,
I have witnessed this piece, and this is the piece that he ends. This is the crescendo of his entire concert, generally speaking, and this is the piece that he plays. And I'm telling you, when he's on it, he's fucking crying at the end of this piece of music. Anyway,
my performance I got to see for John Williams when I actually proposed to Hannah was when he came back for his encore. This is the E.T. song that he did.
Exactly.
The Running the Bikes. Yeah. He came back as an encore before he did the mighty Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Indiana Jones theme. But dude, it was all in purple, and the crowd was all in purple. It was fucking magical.
And you saw it at the Hollywood Bowl, I'm sure.
Saw the Hollywood Bowl, buddy.
So when the Hollywood Bowl show I saw was the three, in my opinion, some of the three greatest pieces he ever did. It was Harry Potter 3, which had the best score of all the Harry Potters. It was Catch Me If You Can, and that had just come out. And then he did the Star Wars monologue the whole Star Wars
The
canon
Empire?
with James Earl Jones narrating.
Mm.
And then he encored with Superman and E.T. And it was just like, you are the master. You are the greatest composer I've ever heard of. Anyway,
So
I'm sorry.
E.T. is yours.
E.T. is mine, and particularly this piece of music from E.T. when they're on the bikes.
So I'm going to go.
Brandon.
I'm going to go off script right now and just tell you that E.T. is 100% out of 100% with score. However, I'm going to say that there is 102% out there, and it is Star Wars. I think that Star Wars has the greatest compilation of different pieces, and that's what I love about John Williams is that
So we're talking New Hope, or we're talking as a saga?
Well, I'm talking about as a saga. It's one fucking movie, right? No, it's three different movies, but I mean, you got the Empire theme right in episode 5. But what I think is there's very few movie moments that make me tingle all over every time that I see it. And I'm telling you, the ceremony scene at the end of New Hope, where you've got that music going and you have got that parade down, and again, it's the marriage of visuals and music. And I tell you, there's nothing more beautiful and perfect than that moment. And I agree that E.T. is absolutely pinnacle, but this Star Wars is John Williams standing on top of the pinnacle, I think.
When Luke is standing out and looking at Tatooine, looking at the twin sons of Tatooine, and you got that horn. I mean, there are moments.
But
I'm not
Sean,
gonna
I don't want to jump on Ed real quick, but I just want to say this.
No,
John Williams is beautiful, and I love E.T. But if you listen to E.T., it's so composed within the same kind of feel, right? Every song has a movement that the feel is all kind of the same endpoint. What I love about Star Wars is that it's diverse. I think that there's so many different there's different themes, right? There's so many different themes to Star Wars that I think it's in my opinion, it's a more polished and a more aggressive form of composing. And that's why I think that Star Wars wins, just because of the diversity, just because it's so many different layered things.
I just remembered another one. Go ahead, Ed.
I didn't hear, but did you do all of Star Wars, or
I mean,
just
to me,
Star Wars
you can
Star Wars
the
saga,
either one. But I mean, Star Wars.
Yeah, you have Phantom Menace, you have Empire Strikes Back,
Duel of Fates.
Yeah. So did he do? Did he also do Home Alone?
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Okay, and he also did. What's the other? Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, and Schindler's List, which has
Schindler's List.
Schindler's List.
Oh my god!
Yeah, Schindler's List. That's one I forgot.
Did he also do The Patriot?
No, that
Yes,
was
he
James
did.
Horner.
No, he did The Patriot.
He did The Patriot too.
Did he really?
Yes, he did.
I
The
love
Patriot.
that one.
I don't think there's a right answer for this question.
No, there's not a bad
But I mean, Jurassic Park. I don't know. It's too hard.
What is your favorite? He's done everything. Like, what is the one that you always, when you think of John Williams, what is the one thing that pops
I
up in
think
your
of Jurassic Park a lot
Home
too.
Alone.
Oh shit! He did Patriot. Mother.
Yep.
He did. Yeah, no. And I want to say Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan that was a zero for me. I mean, like,
so Schindler's List is one that
but
the violin solo. Oh my god.
There's no wrong answer, like I said. Like, for me, it's Home Alone. It hits. I don't know why. I just like Home Alone.
That was magnificent. You know, people have said that, you know, there are other composers that have a more diverse catalog. This dude has the greatest catalog in cinematic history.
Yeah, he's
cinema.
the definition of a composer.
I was literally having this conversation with I think it was Hannah's brother, like, who's the best composer, and someone brought Hans
Zimmer,
and I'm like, yes, Hans Zimmer is great, but he's no fucking John Williams.
No,
I'm sorry.
There's
no fucking close. There's nobody close to John Williams. You can talk about.
I do think there are people that are close.
There's no one closer than John Williams.
He even did Dear Basketball with, like, Kobe Bryant. Like, he part of everything. What was he part of?
Literally read about this. I guess Spielberg said in the interview that him and John were having some issues trying to come up with the main score for E.T., the flow of it, or whatever the climax of it, or something like that. So after a while, things weren't working. He literally told this to John. He's like, John, conduct it the way how you want it, and I'll edit the film to fit the music. And you just had what John did something. I feel like this is one of the most personal scores that he's ever done, where he put all hope and loss and love and just magical to it.
How old is John Williams?
90.
Do we have to watch out for him?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But see, Sean, you love your Michael Gucciano, right? I mean, that's who you're going to say is.
I do, but Michael
budgeting.
Gucciano is a shadowy reflection. He's a shadowy reflection of John Williams. He is, and I think he is probably he does more with a harp and oh god, the Lost theme was so beautiful. I mean, a harp and a horn. But you have James Horner. There's so many great composers out there. I think that Alan Silvestri has proved that he is
Howard Shore is good.
One of the better composers.
Howard Shore is beautiful.
The guy who did Howard Shore, who did Lord of the Rings, I think he's proven himself to be a very good. I think he did The Rocketeer as well. I think that there's moments, and the difference is that John Williams has many more moments than many other people.
I agree.
An epic film.
Yeah,
too.
I think John Williams has 3 times the amount of moments that everyone else does, and that makes him the best.
Okay, question then for this movie. What do you think? How does it fit with Steven Spielberg? Like, is it one of Steven Spielberg's best movies?
Are you asking if this is the movie that defines the 80s? Is this the? Are you asking if this is one of his movies?
It just defines Spielberg's career.
When you think Steven Spielberg, what movie do you think?
No,
it does it or no?
I would say there's 4 movies that compete.
Let me guess. Hold on. Let me guess. Okay, Jaws.
Okay, all right.
Jaws.
Yeah.
Yes.
E.T. Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
Jurassic Park. Schindler's List. You're gonna go Schindler's List?
No, Schindler's List. Yeah, Schindler's List is.
And Indiana Jones.
Have you seen Schindler's List, Jeremiah?
No.
Yes.
Oh, Eddie, you haven't seen it.
Maybe someday.
Schindler's. I would say Schindler's List, Jurassic Park, Jaws, and E.T. are his big ones.
That's his Mount Rushmore.
And I would get rid of Saving Private Ryan and put Indiana Jones in there. But I think that's a collaboration with Lucas, and that's a completely different. Spielberg did not do what he wanted to do. He did what George Lucas wanted him to do, and sometimes that's better. Sometimes it's better to have some. It's a lot easier to decorate someone else's style than your own.
Not AI, huh?
So, is there any defaults in this movie?
Yes, I think there's 4 major problems with E.T.
Can I give you one?
Yes.
It was a plot in the story. It was a question that I started questioning. I never thought about it until now. This is like, I don't think it's a negative. So if you guys flip me, I'm okay with it. How do they track E.T. from the very beginning? Like, was he tracking like crumbs? Like, at one point they found Reese's Pieces, but like, were they like, was he radioactive?
I think they were scouring.
Does he have? It's just overall. That means the whole family. That means the whole family in E.T.'s family, Elliot and Henry Thomas, all of them. They're all going to die because he's radioactive.
No,
like how they track
Brandon,
them?
go ahead.
No, they knew where the landing spot was, right? Because at the beginning they know where the ship has landed. They see the ship leave. What they're doing is they're collecting just any kind of evidence that they have of any kind of things left. I don't think that they knew that any one creature was left. They're just going around tracking the area for evidence. And what they do is they come across a bunch of Reese's Pieces, which are out of place out there. And so that has basically kind of crumb trail to where Elliot's at. They know kind of the idea.
That's where they lead it to the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. They know it's got to be kids.
Well, no, because he left a trail. He left a trail of Reese's Pieces.
To his house?
To the neighborhood, at least.
Yeah.
I always thought that they knew exactly that, one did actually get left behind.
They did.
The path of where they were like investigating led to the city down below, the town below.
I think it was
I always thought they knew exactly where it was at.
Because here's why I don't think that they knew exactly where it was at, because they were literally going street by street, listening to people's conversations, trying to find if anyone knew anything.
No. I'm not saying they knew where it was at Elliot's house, but I'm saying that they knew that it was going into the city because like the direction of it. And that's why when it, it ends before it goes to the house, you see the men looking around that area, investigating to see what's going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think one of the problems with this story is the fact that the government had guns. They just felt out of place.
Well, do you like the reversion of it? Where
I don't like how they. I don't like how they got rid of
walkie-talkies?
walkie-talkies. Because to me, it just It disparaged the original film. But if I could go back and fix something, it didn't feel like that was an appropriate response. Like, I think at one point they even like showed the shotgun, like he was gonna shoot E.T.
He
like,
literally.
What are you gonna do, bro? What are you shoot E.T.? Like, he's escaping. So I thought that was a flaw. It doesn't affect my score in any way, but I think that was a flaw.
You can tell that the technology, how it filmed back in the day, just, it was 40 plus years ago, right?
Yeah, the CGI does not hold up.
The blue screen, the green screen.
But this was something that
it is what it is.
Crossed boundaries at the time,
but it still looked good.
Yeah,
right. And for as limited CGI as there is in this movie, the magic of him lifting up the bikes it overcame any problem I had with the visual.
Perfect. Yeah, that shot's so good, dude.
So the third problem I had was I felt like it was a little long. I felt like the movie could have been trimmed 5 to 7, maybe 10 minutes.
Thank you.
And I felt like
I felt that
once E.T. came back to life, it was magnificently paced. But there was the moment, the time where the government took over to the time where E.T. died, that it could have been just short up just a little bit. And that's the only
There's random scenes where you're like, it's getting a little long.
I don't know.
But like, you didn't even think about it until now.
Right.
Like, you think about
I have to be super critical to find these problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, and the fourth one, the last one is that I can't watch it again for the first time because I've seen it fucking 55,000 times. Yep. And
so, time out. Has your nieces seen this movie?
They do not like it the way I like it, but my sister does.
Okay. Well, you got that.
Okay.
That's so sad, man. This next generation, you don't have your ET. That's the problem.
Brandon, has your children seen
fun
movie?
fact, about a month and a half ago, I said, kids, we're sitting down and watching one of the greatest films ever made. And I forced them to watch this movie, not knowing that I would be watching it again 3.5 weeks later. So, Sean, thank you for making me watch this one twice in about 2 months.
Sorry about that.
No, and I tell you what, Eddie, you said it, how the kids just came in and they were just enraptured by the screen, right? And they were just lost in it. My son Sawyer, he is a soul like mine. It's an emotional soul. And when E.T. is found in the water, Sean, your favorite scene right there, he had a meltdown. He had a meltdown. He was just like, he died. He started tears streaming down, which then got my daughter going crying. And I'm like smiling from the corner of the couch going, that's right, kids. This is what cinema does. So no, they have taken E.T. upon themselves, and I can tell you there is hope for the future because at least my kids appreciate great film.
My nieces do love Stranger Things, just so you know.
There's one positive out there.
Yeah.
To be fair, they probably watch this at an early age.
Like Stranger Things. I'm just like, well, E.T. came first. Come on.
To be fair, we probably saw this movie at an early age. I mean, they didn't understand what was happening. Yeah.
God bless the 80s.
So hold on. I have one last thing to say, because I have one last thing to say that I believe that why this movie is a perfect movie, and I'm gonna for those hosts that are maybe perhaps suggesting that it's not a perfect
on the hovering board,
on the hovering board. I will say this movie ends with the greatest 3 lines that, if you were to write a synopsis of 1,000 words, you could not match these 3 lines for the whole premise of E.T., the whole emotion of E.T. And when he says, come, and Elliot says, stay, and then he says, I'll be right here. And his hand lights up and it touches Elliot, and the look on his face, those 3 lines of dialogue, it was 2 by E.T., 1 by Elliot.
I'll be right
here.
No,
those are words, lines. So, lines, dialogue.
Well, I thought you meant, okay, keep going.
It encapsulated the beauty of the movie, the wonder of the movie, and Elliot's response to the light coming on was so captivating and so beautiful. It made me once again bawl like a little child. So I think that scene, that closing scene, is one of the greatest ways to end a movie you could possibly imagine.
That brings us to the end of our review. Now it's time of the podcast where each of the hosts provides a score on the following scale. Keys, the man. Can you provide the scale, please?
You guys ever watch The Legend of Billie Jean?
Yeah.
Keys was like was Keys the shit in like the 80s? I just feel like
Peter
he was
Coyote
like the guy.
the adult that you wanted to follow, dude. He's the shit.
He was always like the cop. He was always like the guy that was just like the good guy, but had to play like the bad guy part, but he was still a good guy. Anyways, guys.
He's good.
Yeah. So 0, the perfect movie. You don't need shit to enjoy it. 1, a feel good first cocktail. 2, a happy buzz. 3, you're gonna Uber lifting home. 4, rough money watch a shame. 5, blackout shit face spring break drunk.
I think we should start with Jeremiah.
What?
I thought we were supposed to do it
There it is.
at once.
I forgot
I'm giving
about
it.
that. I'm
I'm
sorry.
giving mine.
Brandon, go this way though. I need to see what you.
I'm giving it.
Brandon, go this
Nope,
way. I
I'm
need to
giving
see.
it. I'm giving it right there. Look at the ring light reflection then.
Down.
There. Look at the ring light reflection.
It doesn't.
There it is.
It says there's nothing there. It says 0.
It says-
I don't know what that
there it
means.
is.
What does that mean?
There's
All right. Seriously. 3, 2, 1, go.
All
What
right,
is that?
Jeremy.
Jeremy, what's
What is
that? Is that
that,
a
Jeremy?
square? Back up.
Oh, I got
Oh,
you.
you're trying to be all cool with like
It's the
the.
box.
Trying to do like the whole Stussy fucking thing.
Yeah. I didn't give my sign. I didn't give my score.
I know
yet.
you
Sorry,
haven't.
brother.
I know you haven't. Jeremiah, go ahead and start us off.
I'll keep it short and simple. It's a 0, guys. When you watch this movie, you're going to think about this, and this is what I thought about a lot. Do you remember when you were young? Do you remember when your heart was just full of life and everything like that? This movie brings it back to you in so many ways, man. This movie focuses on friendship. It connects you with innocence, abandonment, but you also find your home. This is probably one of the best scores on John Williams' films of all films that he's ever conducted. It is seriously amazing. And 42 years later, seriously, when this movie came out, this movie did something to me. It put emotional. It just brought so much fucking enjoyment about what it feels like watching films, man. I'm sad that this generation that we live in does not have that experience. Hopefully, maybe one day they will have that opportunity. But dude, seriously, they're missing out. Go back to this film. It will bring you joy. It will bring you happiness. This is everything what movies are about. Imagination, pure imagination, and love and heart. It's a fucking 0. Peace out.
So I'm going to go ahead and take it next. That I know that I especially I like to throw out my zeros. I mean, not as much as Sean, but I like to throw out my zeros on our podcast. And granted, I think that every zero that I've given, I truly, truly believe in. That being said, I do think that there is a hierarchy to zeros. And I know that sounds kind of backwards, but just let me explain it. There are perfect movies where you can sit back and you can say, I can't really criticize anything about this movie, that everything kind of fell into place. And it's a movie where everything works. And then I think that there are truly absolutely 0.0 movies where there is not a misstep. And I can only think of about 5 movies, okay, where there is not a misstep, that every single shot, and I'm not talking about every single scene, I'm talking about every single shot has a purpose, that there is a resounding necessity for everything that we see, everything that we feel, everything that we hear. And I think that E.T. is for me at least, it is one of those 5 movies. It is one of the greatest films ever put to cinema, to celluloid. I think that there is absolutely nothing that we could disparage, nothing that we could criticize, nothing that is wrong about this film. So it is a 0, but it is an even higher echelon 0 than many of the zeros I've given. So this is, to me, this is the cream of the crop right here. So this is a nothing for me, Sean, because we're going to save Eddie for last.
Let Eddie go. I'll finish it up.
So I'm not gonna lie. I went into this movie in my head. I think I even was messing around with you guys. I was thinking like, I'm gonna grade this hard. Like I want to rate this hard, like extra hard, because I was afraid of you guys grading it and thinking like, okay, your childhood is gonna come into this grading process, and it's like, oh, I watched this when I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I grew up on it, and I was afraid. I'm not gonna lie, like I don't want that to go into the grading scale. And then I actually started the movie. This is all honesty. I started the movie 30 minutes in. And I stopped it, and I was like, okay, that's not fair. Let me restart it from the very beginning, because I was picking apart little things. It was unnecessary picking apart. I was like, okay, I don't like the way that they're running through the woods and it's dumb. I look at myself like, that's not fair. Like, this is 1982.
Now you're just looking, now you're just looking for shit.
I don't like the way the sun's looking at this scene. Right. So I started looking at scenes. I was like, oh my God, this is like beautifully shot. And then all the way down to even Yoda. Like, that's the best dressed Yoda of this day and age. I don't think I see a better costume of Yoda in any movie. What got me at midpoint, I think I kind of briefly touched upon it, is when the sunset scene came on, and you saw all the government step in, and you saw my kids, when they stepped into this movie, it made me think, like, okay, I was watching them. I was watching them watch the movie, and I had to pull Noah and Jacob like away from the movie. It's like, okay, well, we have a game to go to, and Noah was all for like, well, like, what's the last minute of the game I have to like actually get there to watch? So I want to watch this movie, and there's like, no, we have to leave, and he's just like, no, I want to watch the movie, and it got me thinking, like, okay, for it to be 1982, and he was in it. Like, to win it, like, he was not backing out. It made me think, like, okay, this movie still holds some type of grasp to the audience, and this day and age of this, Avery was in it. She's 3, and she was connecting to Drew Barrymore. There's just so many different scenes that hit hard, and I started thinking, like, there's not really a bad scene in this movie that I don't feel like I see this movie being. Yeah, you can raise your hand. I don't see a lot of bad parts in this movie. I was like, dude, this movie is really shot great, and John Williams was amazing in it. Like, it's top 3 for me. So this is the best I have for this story of the movie. And Brandon, you might be a little mad. There's like little tiny parts I didn't like, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna overcome it. But that's the best I can.
I will take it. I will take it.
It looks
Sean,
like a very big
finish this shit out.
Zero.
It could also look
Thank
like
God,
this
man.
if you want.
And thank you for that 0, Ed, because I think it's well earned.
Yes, it's hard for me to give zeros. I've given out 4 or 3 in my whole 152 movies.
Well, and I think that part of this movie, the problem with this movie is that it's become part of the culture. It's become part of culture to the point where it's been influenced and referenced and used so many times that it's very easy to go back to the source material and kind of get jaded about how actually impressive it was. But the reason it became part of the zeitgeist of humanity, because the reason it became what it is today, is because the original source material is flawless. It's fantastic. It deals with themes, whether you're a child or whether you're a teenager or whether you're an adult. It deals with themes that all of you can connect to. Everyone can connect to at every different age. It's not scary, but it has a little bit of a scaredness to it. It's not a comedy, but it's got a little bit of humor. It's got a whole lot of drama. It's got a whole lot of heart. And it's something that, I've complained, me and Brandon particularly have complained that movies don't know what they are. This movie knows what it is. It was intended to be this movie from the moment it read pen to paper and it came through on the screen, and Steven Spielberg had a clear vision and the actors knew what they were supposed to do, and everything was pumping in the right direction. When John Williams struggled with the score, it was because he was not given the originality enough to sit down and do it himself, because he needed to put his emotions into it, because there's only so much you can do to explain someone the heart of the movie. They have to understand it. And when he finally peeled back the layers and said, okay, here's what it's about, that's when the magic comes through. And I think Jeremiah said this earlier in the podcast. People don't make movies this way anymore. And I would say that that's not true. People seldom make movies this way. I think that there are certain directors who have captured something. I think Dune 2 captured something on screen that we haven't seen in a long time. I think that there's been movies that have done that. This particular, and I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying that,
what I'm referring to is being childlike in a way where children can actually relate to a film that is a universal,
intergenerational and universal. Yeah. And I think Super 8 does it not as good. There's a lot of, I totally agree with you. Anyway, long story short, this movie's a 0. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I know I'm jaded. I know that I've been trying to push this movie on the podcast the whole time, but it genuinely is a movie that every time I watch it, I cry, I laugh, I have the same emotional responses and the same moments.
It still hits hard.
It still hits hard.
Dude.
I'm almost a 40-year-old man sitting in my home alone, crying this afternoon, listening to the music and watching them. When Elliot says to his brother's friends, "Follow me," and they all follow, it's like that's every kid's dream. Every kid in the world's dream is to have someone trust them enough to follow them. And
my boys wanted to ride bikes after this movie. Like, let's go ride our bikes. I'm like, we have a baseball game to go to. I was like,
that's the thing, dude. We lived that. That was our generation.
That was our generation.
That's what we did.
I mean, how'd you find out where your friends were? It was the pile of bikes in the front yard. Anyway, this movie is a 0. So when you take those 4 scores and divide them by 4, what does E.T. get an average rating of their bucko?
So you know what? This is a well-deserved score.
Well-deserved.
It sits on the very top of the movies we've done. And if I have to pick movies to sit on top of this list, this movie should be up there. This gives us a
Eddie,
0.
you make my heart sing.
So Jeremiah, what is worse than E.T.?
What is worse than E.T.? Well, seriously, it's tied for our number 1 film on our list for 3.5 Gentlemen. It is actually, if we go alphabetical order, it is the number 1 on our list.
So what's tied with it?
Well,
Empire Strikes
listeners, I
Back,
apologize for the inconvenience, but we are a Spielberg fucking podcast here because what's tied at number 0, or number 1, is Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade that we did a few episodes ago, and the other episode that's 0 is Saving Private Ryan.
So we've had 3.
So they're all Spielberg movies.
I think the only one that we missed on that should have been a 0 was
Oppenheimer.
I think that was a mistake.
Oppenheimer.
Sorry, y'all. I only give out 3 zeros, and those are the 3 zeros I've given out.
Here is the top 5. E.T., Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Saving Private Ryan. The number 2 is Empire Strikes Back at 0.0625.
What asshole gave out that score?
Yeah, seriously. Number 3 is Oppenheimer at 0.0825. Number 4 is Raiders of the Lost Ark at 0.13. And number 5
movie's way too high.
That movie's a fucking 0. And that number 5 movie that we have on our list is The Prestige, 0.15.
Where's The Dark Knight?
Dark Knight is actually number 10, 0.5. That's tied with Perks of Being a Wallflower.
So
possibly
Perks
my
is a
other
little
0
high,
that I might have.
Because Dark Knight
I like
is
Perks.
quite good.
I like Perks.
Perks is good.
I
wasn't part of that one. But
I
Perks
like
is
Dark
amazing.
Knight. You guys gave it a 1. I gave it a 0. That's your guys' fault.
Well,
I've given out 3 zeros, and they're the top 3.
like I
bro.
said,
That's
like
all
I
need
said
to say.
before, and like I'll say again, this is exactly where it should be.
right.
Brandon,
This has been such a great holiday spooktacular season, and we want to thank you all for listening. That being said, we are not completely done. Next week, we're going to be returning to our regularly scheduled programming, where we're going to be wrapping up season 5 of 3.5 Gentlemen as we prepare for the inevitable season 6.
if you are a fan of our podcast, we please ask that you subscribe wherever you're listening. Give us a 5-star review on every platform that we are where you're listening to us. You can find us on Instagram at the.gentleman podcast. And we would love to hear from you at hosts@thegentlemanpodcast.com. That's hosts, HOSTS, at thegentlemanpodcast.com. Once again, I want to thank you all for listening. This has been a fantastic season 5 as we get to the end of the year. I believe we have only a handful of movies left of our regularly scheduled like non-holiday themed movies, and I think we're gonna do some little Christmas movies, and then we'll say Levi until January or February. We'll pick back up with season 6.
You really liked me? Can you comment and let me know if you like me, or am I the worst?
No, they're like Empire Strikes Back and Oppenheimer. No, we're gonna fucking get you guys. We're gonna get that one guy.
Halloween. Listen to Halloween. That was a season-ending episode, guys.
Almost a
Peace out,
podcast
everyone.
ending episode.
It's almost podcast.
Anyway, with that, cheers, gentlemen. We'll see you
Cheers.
next week.
Clink, clink.
Peace out. I'll be right here.
I'll be right.
I'm
Perfect.
really glad.
Hey, that toy that he was doing, it had to make
I-
money. Though, right? It had to
almost
make a lot of money.
made a
Dude, I
reference
read
to
something
Minority
that
Report.
the